Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I plan my meals, buy in bulk when things are on sale, and pack my lunch every single day. It saves me a ton of money compared to eating out, and honestly, I prefer it that way. The atmosphere in my office job seemed pretty relaxed when I first started. About 6 months in, I noticed something weird. I brought in a frozen meal for lunch one day, wrote my name on it with a marker like I always do, and stuck it in the office freezer. Lunchtime rolled around and it was gone. I figured maybe someone grabbed it by mistake, so I didn't make a big deal out of it. But then it happened again and again. My coworker mentioned his sandwich disappeared once. Another person said their energy drinks kept vanishing. We have this office manager who runs things with an iron fist. She's one of those people who acts like every little office rule is a matter of life and death, but only when it's convenient for her. Last year, she sent out this email to everyone saying we needed to stop keeping food at our desks because it was unprofessional and might attract bugs. She made us all start using the break room fridge and cabinets instead. Fine, whatever. I started keeping my stuff there. That's when things really got bad for me. About 2 months ago, I had a rough week. I'd gone grocery shopping over the weekend and stocked up on everything I needed to get through my work days. I'm talking a box of cereal I like to eat at my desk in the mornings, some applesauce cups, yogurt, a 12-pack of soda. I wrote my name on every single item with a thick black marker. You couldn't miss it. By Wednesday, half of it was gone. By Friday, everything had disappeared. I was furious. That was like $30 worth of food, and I'd budgeted specifically for it. I walked straight to the office manager's desk and explained what happened. Her response made my blood boil. She crossed her arms and gave me this look like I was wasting her time. She asked if I'd put my name on everything. I told her yes, I always did, and my name was on every single item. Then she wanted to know if I'd actually seen anyone take the stuff. I admitted I hadn't, but pointed out they were clearly marked and now they were gone. She pressed further, asking if I had any proof someone in the office took them. She suggested maybe I just forgot them at home or miscounted. I insisted I hadn't forgotten anything, and someone definitely took my food. She sighed like I was being difficult and told me the break room wasn't my personal break room, it was shared space. If I was so concerned about keeping my food safe, I should keep it at my desk from now on. The hypocrisy was unbelievable. She was the one who made us stop keeping food at our desks in the first place. But I didn't bother pointing that out because I knew it wouldn't matter. She'd already made up her mind that this wasn't her problem. So I went online and ordered myself a decent insulated backpack, the kind that keeps things cold all day. I started bringing everything with me and storing it in my desk drawers. My co-workers thought I was paranoid, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to keep losing money to whoever the office thief was. For the next couple months, everything was fine. I didn't lose any more food. I heard a couple other people had stuff go missing, but nobody seemed to want to make waves about it. Everyone just kind of accepted that we had a thief and there was nothing we could do. Then yesterday happened, and it was glorious. We had a small potluck for someone's birthday. People brought in chips, cookies, that sort of thing. I didn't contribute anything to the potluck itself, but I did bring my own drinks from home like I always do. I drink Dr. Pepper Zero almost exclusively. Regular soda is too sweet for me, and I don't like most other diet sodas, so I keep a steady supply. I was sitting at my desk during the party, sipping on one of my Dr. Pepper Zeros, when the office manager walked up to me. She had this suspicious look on her face. She demanded to know if I was drinking her soda. I looked up at her, genuinely confused, and told her no, it was mine and I brought it from home. She wasn't satisfied with that answer. She asked if her name was on it and wanted to know where I'd gotten it if I hadn't taken it from the fridge. I could feel everyone nearby getting quiet, sensing the tension. I kept my voice calm and pleasant when I explained there was this amazing place called the grocery store that sold canned sodas, and I'd bought mine there. I told her I'd kept it with me at my desk the whole time. I reached down and pulled out my backpack from under my desk, unzipping it to show her the rest of my drinks and food inside. She peered at it, then looked back at me with narrowed eyes. She asked if I'd seen anyone take drinks from the fridge because someone had taken hers and she needed to know who. This was my moment. I've been waiting for this for 2 months. I asked her if she'd seen anyone take the drinks and whether she had any proof anyone had taken them. Her face started turning red. She insisted she didn't need to see someone do it. She knew someone took them because they weren't there anymore. I told her that was interesting because my name had been on my food too, but that hadn't stopped someone from taking it. I reminded her that the break room wasn't her personal break room, it was shared space. I suggested maybe she should keep her drinks at her desk from now on. The silence that followed was beautiful. A couple of my co-workers were clearly trying not to smile. The office manager's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She stammered that it was completely different. Those drinks were hers and her name was clearly marked on them. I pointed out mine had been marked too, but apparently that hadn't mattered when it was my food. She stormed off without another word. I went back to drinking my soda. Am I probably going to get written up for being sarcastic to management? Almost definitely. Do I care? Not even a little bit. This company has been hemorrhaging employees for the past year, and I'm one of the few people left who actually knows how to run half the systems we use. They need me, way more than I need them. Plus, I've already been sending out applications to other places. I've got 2 interviews lined up next week. The thief still hasn't been caught, and honestly, I hope they strike again. Maybe next time management will actually do something about it instead of just brushing everyone off, but I doubt it. My husband works in IT and we've been doing okay for ourselves. We bought a small house 2 years ago, and 6 months ago, we welcomed our baby girl into the world. Money has been tighter since she was born, what with daycare costs and all the baby expenses, but we manage our budget carefully and we're happy. Every year my family gets together for Thanksgiving. It's always been a big deal for us. My parents host it at their house, and all my siblings come with their families. Between my 3 siblings and their kids, plus my parents, we usually have around 20 to 25 people there. It's chaotic, sure, but it's always been fun. The kids run around playing while the adults catch up and we all pitch in to make a huge spread of food. This year started out normally enough. Someone created the group chat in early November to start planning. My nephew, who's in his mid-20s and recently moved into his own place, volunteered to handle the meat. He just bought himself a fancy new grill and was excited to use it. Everyone thought that was great, and he told us we should all bring side dishes and desserts like we usually do. I sent a message to the group chat about a week before Thanksgiving saying, we bring mashed potatoes. It's what I always make, and I'm pretty good at it. I usually make enough for everyone to have seconds. My husband and I had already budgeted for the ingredients. Plus, we were planning to bring some drinks too. We were looking forward to it, even though managing a 6-month-old during a big family gathering is exhausting. Then my sister chimed in. She's the oldest of us siblings and has always been a bit bossy, but this was something else. She wrote in the group chat that every family needs to bring $100 worth of food minimum or help pay for the meat. $100. That was never discussed. My nephew had volunteered to do the meat. Nobody asked him to spend $300 on it. And now we were all expected to match that energy. I sat there feeling my blood pressure rise. $100 might not sound like much to some people, but for us right now, with a new baby and all the expenses that come with that, it was a significant chunk of our grocery budget. Plus, it was the principle of the thing. This wasn't how our family had ever done Thanksgiving before. We all brought what we could, and it always worked out fine. I didn't respond right away. I needed to cool down and talk to my husband about it first. He was just as annoyed when I told him. He said it was ridiculous and that nobody had agreed to that beforehand. I agreed with him completely. The way she just announced it like it was a done deal really bothered me. The next day, before I could even figure out how to address it, my sister sent another message to the group chat. She laid out 3 options. The first was to bring food enough for everyone, not just ourselves. The second was to help pay for the meat at $100 per family. The third was to help our dad pay the water bill at $200 per family. She ended her message telling everyone to choose wisely. I felt my face get hot. The condescending tone of that message, the way she acted like she was doing us some kind of favor. And wait, help pay the water bill. What did that have to do with Thanksgiving? Was she seriously trying to use a family holiday to collect money for my parents' utilities? I'd had enough. My fingers were typing before I could think better of it. I wrote back saying there was a fourth option, which was to not show up at all. The chat went silent after that. For about an hour, nobody said anything. Then my phone started blowing up with private messages. My mom was upset, saying I was being dramatic. My brother asked what the big deal was, but nobody seemed to understand why I was so angry about the whole thing. Maybe we'd all cool off and figure something out. But the next afternoon, while I was at school helping a student with their math homework during lunch, my phone buzzed with notifications from the group chat. When I checked it during my break, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My sister had posted a screenshot. It was from some public database website that lists teacher salaries. My name was there, along with my annual salary. She wrote that some people want to act like they can't afford to contribute but make a certain amount per year. She said she was just saying. I sat there in my empty classroom, hands shaking. She had actually done that. She'd looked up my salary online and posted it to shame me in front of our entire family. Never mind that salary websites don't account for taxes, insurance, retirement contributions, student loans, or, the cost of actually living. Never mind that what my husband and I make is our private business. Never mind that financial situations are more complex than a single number on a screen. I called my husband immediately. I told him she had posted my salary in the group chat. He couldn't believe it and asked me to repeat what I just said. I explained that she had found it online and posted it to shame me for not wanting to spend $100. He said that was it, we weren't going. I agreed with him completely. I typed one final message to the group chat. I told everyone I was definitely not coming now and that what she had just done was completely out of line. Then I muted the chat. I didn't want to see whatever responses were coming. My parents tried calling me that evening. I let it go to voicemail. They left a message asking me to reconsider, saying family is important, saying my sister was just stressed about planning. No mention of how inappropriate her behavior was. Thanksgiving came and went. My husband and I stayed home with our daughter. We made a small turkey breast, my mashed potatoes, some green beans, and a pumpkin pie. We watched football and played with the baby on the living room floor. It was quiet and peaceful, and honestly, it was one of the better Thanksgivings I've had in years. A few days later, my brother sent me a private message telling me that the whole thing had been a disaster. Half the people didn't bring the $100 worth of food. My nephew ran out of meat halfway through because fewer people showed up than expected. And my sister spent the whole time complaining about how disrespectful everyone was being. My parents were upset that their family wasn't all together. My brother ended his message by saying I had made the right call not coming. I didn't respond to that. I was still too angry. It's been a few weeks now and nobody has apologized. My sister certainly hasn't. I don't know when or if I'll see them again for a holiday. But I do know that I'm not going to let anyone treat me like that, family or not. My problem started about 6 months ago when this woman got elected to the Homeowners Association board right away, and suddenly she was everywhere. I didn't think much of it at first. I kept my property neat, paid my dues on time, and minded my own business. But then the letters started coming to my house too. The first one claimed my mailbox needed repainting. It didn't. The second one said my car was parked too close to the sidewalk. It wasn't. I ignored them because they were obviously made-up violations. Then things got weird. I started noticing her walking past my house multiple times a day, always slowing down to look at my windows. One time I was sitting in my living room working on my laptop, and I saw her standing in my driveway, craning her neck to see inside. When I got up and looked out the window directly at her, she just turned and walked away like nothing happened. A few weeks ago, she knocked on my door. I answered, and she was standing there with that clipboard of hers. She told me she needed to discuss a violation with me. I asked her what violation she was talking about. She claimed I was running a business out of my home and said that was against the Homeowners Association regulations. I told her I wasn't running a business and explained that I just worked from home for a company, which was completely different. She said she'd seen me at my computer during business hours and insisted I was clearly conducting commercial activity. I explained again that I was just an employee working remotely, that there were no clients coming to my house, no business operations, nothing like that. It was just me doing my job. She started going on about how the regulations clearly said something or other. I cut her off and asked her to show me where it said I couldn't work from home as an employee. She flipped through her clipboard but couldn't find anything. She told me she knew I was violating something and that she'd find it. Then she left. But the next week, I got a formal letter from the Homeowners Association claiming I was running an unauthorized business and threatening fines. I wrote back explaining that I was simply an employee working remotely, which isn't prohibited anywhere in the bylaws. I even attached the relevant sections to prove my point. The board reviewed everything and sent me a letter saying no violation had occurred and the matter was closed. She started leaving handwritten notes on my door, claiming she had evidence of my commercial activities. She'd write things like she'd observed a commercial vehicle in my driveway when it was just a pizza delivery guy, or that multiple persons were entering my property during business hours when it was just my brother stopping by to borrow a ladder. I documented everything and reported it to the Homeowners Association Board. They sent her a warning to stop harassing me. That seemed to make her angrier. Yesterday afternoon, I was in my kitchen making coffee when I heard a scraping sound coming from my home office. The office has a window that faces the side yard, and I'd left it cracked open because it was a nice day. I walked down the hall, and that's when I saw her. She was halfway through my window. Her entire upper body was inside my house, and she was looking around my desk. Her legs were still hanging outside, kicking slightly when she tried to wiggle further in. We made eye contact. She froze. I froze. For what felt like a full minute, we just stared at each other. Her mouth opened like she was about to say something, but nothing came out. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and held it up. I took a picture of her, making sure to get her face and her body halfway through my window in the frame. The camera made that little shutter sound. Then I unlocked my phone and dialed 911. I didn't say anything to her. I just held the phone to my ear and waited. The operator answered and asked what my emergency was. That's when she moved. She scrambled backward through the window so fast she nearly fell into the bushes outside. I watched through the window when she took off running down the street toward her house, not looking back once. I told the operator that someone had just tried to break into my home through a window, that I'd caught them halfway inside, and that I had a photo. The operator took my information and said officers were on the way. I went outside and waited on my front porch. 15 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up. I told the officers exactly what happened and showed them the photo. They looked at each other, and one of them shook his head. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said absolutely. They took my full statement, looked at the window, and took their own photos of the scene. Then they asked me if I knew who it was. I told them exactly which house she lived in. I also mentioned that she'd been harassing me for months over a fake homeowners association violation and said I had all the documentation if they needed it. One of the officers said they'd take care of it. I watched from my porch when both police cars drove down to her house. They knocked, and when she answered, I could see her face go white even from 3 houses away. They talked to her for a few minutes on her porch, then one officer held up handcuffs. She tried to argue, but they weren't having it. They cuffed her right there and put her in the back of the patrol car. The officers came back to give me a case number and told me I'd hear from the prosecutor's office about next steps. When they left, I saw her neighbors standing in their yards, watching everything. The patrol car drove past my house with her in the back seat. My Honda Civic has seen better days. I bought it 8 years ago and stopped caring what it looked like around year 2. The paint's faded to a dull gray. There's a dent in the rear bumper from a pole I backed into, and the passenger side mirror is held on with duct tape. The interior isn't much better. The fabric on the driver's seat has a tear. The air conditioning only works on the highest setting, and there's a weird rattle that starts whenever I go over 40 miles per hour, but it runs fine and gets me where I need to go. Tonight, that beat-up car came in handy. I pulled into the Walmart parking lot around 8 p.m. on August 11th. The lot was packed for a Friday night. I'd just gotten off a long shift at work and needed to grab some groceries before heading home. I circled around looking for a spot when I saw a car parked at an angle taking up 2 spaces. The front end was in one spot, the back end was in another. It was one of those expensive models too, all shiny and black with chrome accents. People do this all the time and it drives me crazy. We're all trying to park here and some people think their car needs double the space. What really got me was that this car was right next to an empty spot I could use. The problem was they'd angled their vehicle so close to the line on my side that there was barely any room. I sat there for a moment, debating whether to just find another spot. Most people would have kept driving and found another spot, but I looked at my car, looked at theirs, and thought about how much I didn't care if someone dinged my doors. I also thought about how I've been circling this lot for 10 minutes already and my feet hurt. I pulled in nice and tight. I made sure I was completely within my own parking space, all 4 wheels inside the lines. I even checked twice to make sure I wasn't over the line at all, but I was close, real close. Close enough that there was no way the driver of that car was getting in through their driver's side door. My car was maybe 6 inches from theirs. I had to climb out through my passenger side, which took some awkward maneuvering. I'm not exactly flexible, so I had to twist myself around the center console and pushed the door open with my foot. A couple walking by gave me a strange look, but I just smiled and grabbed my shopping cart. I headed inside feeling pretty good about myself. I had a decent list to get through, some groceries, some household stuff, a new phone charger because mine finally died. The usual. It took me about 45 minutes to get everything and check out. The store was busy and the lines were long. The whole time I was shopping, I kept thinking about that car and wondering if the driver would be back before me. Part of me hoped they would be. I walked out with my cart around 8:50 p.m., heading toward my car. Someone was standing by the car. It was a woman, probably in her mid-40s, just staring at the driver's side of her vehicle. She had one of those fancy purses hanging off her arm and was wearing heels that looked uncomfortable. She kept looking at my car, then at her door, then back at my car. She tried the handle and could only open the door about 6 inches before it hit my Civic. She tried to squeeze through, but there was no way. She wasn't a small person and that gap was tiny. I was about 20 feet away when I realized what was happening. A grin spread across my face. Instead of walking up to my car like normal, I just kept walking right past it. I tried to act casual, like I was heading somewhere else entirely. I pushed my car 2 aisles over, loaded my groceries into a random cart return area, and then found a spot where I could sit on one of those concrete parking blocks and watch. I pulled out my phone and pretended to scroll through it, but I was watching her the whole time. She was getting more frustrated by the second. She tried the door again, really yanking on it this time. The door opened those same 6 inches and stopped. She even tried pushing on my car a little, like that would somehow create more space. She walked around to the passenger side, but someone else had parked there too. They'd left more room than I had, but it still wasn't enough for her to climb across comfortably. Not in those heels anyway. She pulled out her phone and made a call. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but she seemed to be complaining to whoever was on the other end. Her free hand kept gesturing at my car. She paced around the car a few times, kept looking at my car like she was trying to figure out if it was even legal how close I parked. At one point, she walked right up to my car and looked at how I was positioned in the space. She saw that I was well within my lines, and I watched her shoulders slump a little. She tried to squeeze through that driver's side gap one more time. She got one leg in, tried to angle her body sideways, but she just couldn't make it work. Her purse kept getting caught on the steering wheel. She backed out, looking around the parking lot like she was hoping no one was watching. I was watching. I was very much watching. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Then she did something I wasn't expecting. She went to the back of her car and opened the rear hatch. It took me a second to realize what she was planning, and when I did, I had to put my hand over my mouth to keep from laughing out loud. She was going to crawl through the back. She looked around again, making sure no one was nearby. A family was walking past, and she waited for them to get their kids loaded into their car before making her move. Then she climbed into the cargo area. It was not graceful. She had to hoist herself up and wiggle her way through. She took off her heels first and tossed them into the front seat. I watched her crawl over the back seats on her hands and knees. She had to squeeze between the front seats, knocking her purse onto the floor in the process. She finally dropped into the driver's seat with all the grace of a sack of potatoes. It probably took her 2 full minutes to get situated. Maybe closer to 3. She had to reach down and grab her heels from where they'd fallen. She put them back on while sitting in the driver's seat. Then she adjusted her hair in the rearview mirror. She started the engine immediately after that and backed out fast, almost clipping the car behind her. She didn't even straighten out properly, just threw it in drive and took off toward the exit. Her tires squealed a little as she turned. I wondered if she realized why this had happened to her. I wondered if she'd think twice before parking like that again. Probably not. People like that never do. They probably just blame everyone else. I waited until she was completely gone and out of the parking lot before I walked back to my car. I grabbed my cart from the return area and pushed it over. A guy parked nearby gave me a nod and a smile. He'd clearly been watching too. I loaded up my groceries, taking my time now that the show was over. I climbed back in through the passenger side one more time. It was just as awkward getting back in as it was getting out. I started my car and it made that rattling sound it always does. I drove home with the biggest smile on my face. The whole drive back I kept replaying the image of her crawling through her cargo area. My car might be a piece of junk, but tonight it served a greater purpose. My boy had just turned 4 that spring, and we'd gotten into a nice routine of hitting up the playground at the park a few blocks over most afternoons when the weather was nice. That day in June was perfect. Sunny, warm, not too humid. We'd spent a good hour at the park and my son had worn himself out on the swings and climbing equipment. He was chattering away about some cartoon he wanted to watch when we got home while we made our way back down the sidewalk. We were maybe half a block from turning onto our street when I noticed this guy sitting on his covered porch. He was a big dude, probably in his early 50s, and he was waving at us in this really deliberate way. Not a friendly wave either, more like he was summoning us over. I didn't recognize him, but our street isn't that long, and I figured maybe he needed help with something. Maybe his phone died and he needed to make a call, or maybe he wanted to ask about the neighborhood association. I don't know. I'm generally willing to help people out if they need it. So I took my son's hand and we crossed the street. The house sat up higher than street level with stairs leading up to the porch where this guy was planted in what looked like a permanently stationed lawn chair. We stopped at the bottom of his walkway. Before I could even say hello or ask what he needed, he just launched right into it. He demanded to know why I never cleaned the snow off his sidewalk. His tone was harsh, like a boss calling out an employee who'd been slacking off. I had no idea what he was talking about. It was June. There hadn't been snow on the ground for months. I stood there for a second trying to process whether this was some kind of joke or if I'd somehow met this person before and completely forgotten about it. I stammered out some confused response, not even sure what to say. He cut right through my confusion and told me he'd seen me clearing snow with a snowblower. It sounded like an accusation, like he'd caught me doing something wrong. I do have a snowblower. It's nothing fancy, just a decent mid-range model I picked up at a hardware store a couple years back. I use it on my driveway and the sidewalk in front of my house during winter, so I admitted that yes, I had one. Then he went off about how I wasted hours clearing part of the street every time it snowed. I tried to explain that I did that so we could park our cars, but he didn't let me finish. He kept going, saying I had a snowblower and it was easy work. He pointed out that I spent all that time on my corner clearing the street, and I should just snowblow my way over to his place and get his short little walk done in no time. I told him it was more work than he thought. By the time I finished my own property, I was tired. It's not like snowblowing is some effortless task. The machine is heavy, snow is heavy, and it takes real effort. He called me a liar. said he'd seen me clear the sidewalk next to my house and that one was longer than his, so clearly I had the energy to do more. I explained that the people next door were a disabled couple in their 80s. They couldn't move heavy snow themselves. They lived right next to me and their sidewalk was only about 20 feet long. I did it to be nice, to help out neighbors who genuinely couldn't do it themselves. He threw that back at me and told me to be nice to him too. Said he couldn't lift heavy snow either, but I didn't care about him. Then he complained that if he wanted to go out, he had to wait until his sons got there to shovel him out and clean off his car. That's when it really clicked for me. He had sons, multiple sons who came over to help him. But somehow I, a complete stranger who lived way down the block and across the street, was supposed to have been doing this for him all along without him ever asking. I told him that his sons could handle it and I wasn't going to clear his snow. Then I wished him a good day and started to walk away with my son. We'd barely taken 2 steps when he called out again. He said he could pay me. He said it like he thought this was some amazing offer, like the thought of payment would suddenly make me jump at the chance. I stopped and looked back at him. I asked if he wanted to hire me. He confirmed that, yes, if that's what it took, he'd pay. I pointed out that he'd just spent 5 minutes yelling at me because I didn't do it for free all winter long. And now he wanted to hire me for next winter. He said I should have been doing it anyway, but fine, he'd pay. I told him no thanks. He could have his sons do it, or hire a plow service, or get anyone else to do it. He had the nerve to tell me I was being unreasonable. I told him he'd flag down a stranger to yell at him about something that happened months ago, and we were done here. I walked away and didn't look back. My son asked me why that man was so angry, and I told him some people just expect others to do things for them without ever bothering to ask nicely first. We got home and I mentioned the whole thing to my wife. She was just as confused as I was. She'd never spoken to the guy either. He'd been living there for years, but kept mostly to himself, which now made a lot more sense. The next winter came around and I stuck to my usual routine with a snowblower. I did my driveway, my front walk, my sidewalk, and the elderly couple's place next door. I never once went near that guy's house. Sometimes I'd see one of his sons over there shoveling him out, and I figured that's exactly how it should be. The guy had family willing to help him, and that was his solution, not me. He never tried to flag me down again after that day. I'd see him sometimes sitting on his porch during the warmer months, and he'd just stare when I walked by. Never waved, never said anything. Fine by me. I had no interest in another conversation with someone who thought the world owed him free labor just because he could see me working on my own property. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.